It's a Freestyle Friday, which means one thing and one thing only. Well, at least to start anyway. You know, you gotta start things off properly.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday. Friday. Day.
It is Friday here on the morning show. John here, you there. Here's the rundown quickly because we got a lot of stuff to do. I feel like Jerry Reed and Smokey and the Bandit. Long way to go, short time to get there. Lucas Panzica joining us briefly. I've got a beef with his co-hosts. We'll get into that. He's made opening kickoff and the opening segment talking about Nashville and Messi and friends in match day number 3. Calen Carr, AppleTV, is going to be joining us at 10 o'clock. He's done a lot of really cool things recently. I want to talk to him about his Colin Sexton piece with Field Notes. He was here for the Brad Gazan finale, seen Thomas Mueller, been on the sidelines. We're going to go through all of the things with him. Will Palaszczuk, play-by-play voice of Charlotte, joining us at 10:30. It's going to be Charlotte and NYCFC. And that's just kind of get things started as to how things are. So, wasting no time in a no dilly, no dally zone, we bring in Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. And, sir, you have performed, without your knowledge, the daily double here to start things off on a Friday. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How's it going, John?
I was mad. I'm just going to say it. I was pretty hot. And you know me. I am Team Lucas when it comes to broadening horizons and things like this. And I know I've only got you for like 15 minutes, so I'm going to try to make this quick. You are at 104.5 The Zone, and I saw something come across my IG gram or Insta feed, whatever the kids call it these days, where you were getting ganged up on over your choice of language, and I got hot. If I had known about this in any kind of timely fashion, I probably would have called into the show and come down on the side. I'm Team Lucas here, and it would have been more of a 3-on-2 as opposed to a 3-on-1. And so, yeah, I was pretty hot after what happened the other day.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I used the Latin phrase modus operandi in asking a question to former Titans center Ben Jones on what kind of his routine was on a bye week in his NFL career, and I got roasted for it. I mean, it is par for the course on that show, John. The culture is very poor. It's very toxic. It's not very conducive to learning new things and, just trying to broaden our horizons and bring some intellectuality to the discussion. It's very base level, lacks nuance, just generally on the day-to-day discussion. So God forbid I try to bring that into the picture.
So here is what happened, and feel free to interject or interrupt as much as humanly possible here. Here's the segment I'm talking about. It's about 2 minutes, just this particular instance. Lucas getting ganged up on Nashville radio.
That is a common phrase. Modus operandi is that is something, that's a thing that you hear. What was your bye-week kind of ritual, or what was kind of your, modus operandi at that moment?
Yeah. What was your modus operandi at that moment?
It's a perfectly reasonable way to ask that.
What? Okay, Mr. Latin
I'm sorry
boy.
you
Mr.
are
Latin
intellectual
boy.
enough to keep up over here.
Oh, so you're going to talk down to us.
I took 2 years of Latin because it counted as a foreign language, and I took Greek and Latin vocab. So if you want to talk Latin, we can opportune stenorum or whatever the hell they talk about over there. But there's a reason it's a dead language, dude. It's a dead language. I want you to pull that crap.
It's not
when
dead.
Brett Kern comes in here.
It's still spoken in the form of Italian.
Let's just ask him. Let's see what he's doing. Let's see what his modus operandi
This is
is.
such a weird place to work that in. Just say, what was your MO?
Yeah.
What was your bye-week MO?
I feel like you
pops into my head.
What was your modus operandi in that situation?
How long did you have that in your pocket? And you thought like Ben was going to be like, oh, wow, this guy's a scholar. What a genius.
I bet if you bragged to Ben about your 8th grade spelling bee championship in the state of Alabama, he'd be like, yeah, but it's in Alabama.
He'd be impressed.
Give us one more Latin phrase. What's your favorite Latin phrase? 615-737-1045.
Et tu, Brute?
Yeah. And there's about another 30 seconds of that. But I use modus operandi. I use MO. when this segment came across, the first phrase that popped into my head was Aliyah Yakta Est. Because when the three of them ganged up on you, the die was cast, sir. I come down on Team Lucas. Do they not watch movies from Metro Goldwyn Mayer, Ars Gratia Artis? Do they not watch the 5-ring circus in the winter and the summer on alternating 2-year cycles, where it is Sidious Altius Fortius?
This is the validation I needed, John. Absolutely. I mean, even Buck, who is the namesake of the show.
Is that, in fact, his real name? He feels like he should be paired with Bill Dance or Roland Martin.
I know. No, it's not his real name. It's not his real name. It's a very ego-driven thing that he's done in his career to this point. But even Buck, who came at me saying, just ask what your MO is. What do you think that means? What do you think it stands for? So, yes, this is the exact validation that I needed. I appreciate it.
I mean, we could talk Descartesian physics and talk about cogito ergo sum, which might be something missing from your 3 co-hosts.
You're taking it to a whole other level here. This is fantastic.
I mean, seriously. I mean, and when you come on the show, it is not something where I pay you. This is pro bono. This is pro bono work for you. I mean, literally. And obviously, when we get into discussing Nashville and Messi and friends, it is going to be one of those situations where we are checking your bona fides, your bona fides, as they say here in the South. And it is an opportunity for Nashville to carpe diem.
That one for sure. That one for sure. I really wish I could add to this thread, but clearly I'm not as well versed as you are. But it is a big opportunity on Saturday as they live to fight another week, which is all you could really ask for going into that game at Geodis Park last weekend.
Match day 2, what sticks in your mind from that one other than jumping on Nashville and getting the early start? You know, you look at we've talked about Eddie Togset in the past and his successes and what he's meant to the midfield. You have Yazbek punching a 7.5, one of the highest rated players with SOFA scores, Sam Surridge, all of the things. And one thing that we need to make clear, it is 3 consecutive matches with a yellow means that you get the next one gone. He is available for match day 3.
Yes. Good clarification there. Yeah, to be honest, I don't think tactics had a whole lot to do with this game. It felt this is a weird situation, right, where this Saturday will be the 4th straight meeting between these two. They met on decision day. Now here they are in this 3-game series. On decision day, Nashville just said, we're going to fight fire with fire, right? We've got one of the best attacks in Major League Soccer. We're going to lean on that. And they did to a point where they were leading at halftime, but weren't clinical enough with the volume of chances they were getting in the first half. And they had to pay for it. In the end, Miami just turns on and they take over in the second half. Okay, and then game 1 of the playoff series, little bit of a tactical shift from BJ Callahan. 4-3-3, let's add a body into midfield, push the ball into the wide areas, limit Messi's touches. And it worked to a degree, right? Nashville still not very opportune with its chances. Trailing 1-0 at halftime, the game is still very much there. Concede some very preventable goals. The next thing you know, Hani Mukhtar's banging in a consolation free kick goal at the very death to lose 3-1. And then this game, that stuff all aside, Nashville just had to dig out a result. And they finally said, okay, we're just going to go face-to-face and take the fight to Miami here. And this was just intensity. This was the kind of mentality that Nashville needs to have against a team like Miami, just to never let them get comfortable. The weather all kind of played into it. It's a cold, rainy night in Nashville, all those jokes being made. But the crowd was fantastic. Credit to Matt Corcoran, the 19-year-old who steps into midfield, had a phenomenal performance. Didn't back down from the moment, was very sound defensively, was really one of the initiators for Nashville in possession. And there was kind of a twist on this game late where Dan Lovitz pops up on the injury report, questionable with an ankle for something that I believe happened in training. And next thing you know, he's out of the lineup and you're thinking, okay, he's such a pivotal part of what Nashville wants to do in that 4-2-2-2 shape with the fullbacks bombing forward. So Josh Bauer comes in out of position at left back and he kind of stays home. And it's Bauer, Palacios, and Zimmerman with Corcoran and Yazbek and Andy Nahar bombing forward on the right side, really building out for Nashville. And it kind of worked. And it was one of the best defensive performances of the year for Nashville. And, you know, you're a Lionel Messi moment of brilliance away in the 90th minute from keeping a clean sheet on Miami, which hasn't happened very often this season. So just impressive the way they took the fight to Miami, used the home crowd to its advantage, and just dug out a result, John. And it's a taller task to do that on the road at Chase Stadium, but I do think it's a big wind at their sails that they get with that confidence boost to finally get over that hump, because Nashville had not beaten Miami yet in the Lionel Messi era.
And it is an opportunity for them to go down to the erector set and go Veni Vidi Vici on them in match day number 3. Lineup, are you anticipating with the notes that you got heading into match day 2 with the surprise on the card? How are you looking at the starting 11?
Pretty much a similar formula, I would say. It depends on where Dan Lovitz is physically with that ankle. If Dan Lovitz is healthy, I think he pops back into the starting lineup. BJ Callahan has not been one to tinker with those type of things when it's not necessary. He's typically leaned on his guys that have gotten him to that point, right? So we'll see, but it was great to see Josh Bauer come in and do a job and even get a goal, what ends up being the game-winning goal, bundling in a ball at the back post on a corner kick just before halftime to take a 2-0 lead into the break. So I think largely you'll see a pretty similar setup. You know, on the lineup graphic, if you're watching on Apple TV, it was a 4-3-3 shape.
No.
Yeah, really, you'd call it a 4-2-2-2 with a twist, right? What Nashville was doing, that twist being the left back isn't joining in on the attack as much as he would if Dan Lovitz is in the game. So that is the one area that I'm very fascinated to see what Nashville will do. Matthew Corcoran, I mean, that performance last weekend, he, to his credit, made it very difficult for BJ Callahan to leave him out of the picture in this game. So I expect to see him in some way, shape, or form. And then end of the day, even though they won this game, John, they still left some goals on the table. And there were multiple transition moments in the second half where Nashville had opportunities to just bury this game to make it 3-0. And one in particular where Sam Surge just teed up beautifully on a cross from Andy Nahar, essentially one-on-one with Rios Novo, the keeper, and just skies it into the upper deck, which was kind of appalling to see. Sam hadn't really done that all season with his 31 goals in all competitions. So that is going to be another continued trend. It needs to be a situation where Nashville is taking advantage of its chances at a very highly efficient rate if they want to walk out of Chase Stadium with kind of a repeat of what Atlanta United did last year.
And you won't have Luis Suarez to worry about the decision coming out of right field from Disco over the contact with Andy Nahar. We talked about the repercussions of Disco doing this yesterday, but you don't have Luis Suarez to worry about either.
Yes, no doubt. And Suarez, he hadn't gotten a goal in this series, but obviously he's someone you have to account for. Luis Suarez was Luis Suarez in this game. Kind of one of those moments. Very cheeky. I don't know how many people saw it, just running past Nahar. Just a little extra.
It was a mule kick.
Yeah, I know. Just a kick back just to catch Nahar on the thigh, and he goes tumbling down, and there's no whistle, and it's okay. There he is, right? But it'll be interesting to see what Miami does, right? It feels like they don't really have a like-for-like center forward that is, that's what he does. But they have a lot of dynamic versatility along that front. So we'll see how they kind of shift around with Tadeo Allende, Talasco Segovia maybe coming into the starting lineup.
Right.
I'm very intrigued by that. But no doubt you'll take it if you're Nashville and you go into Miami with a little bit of confidence and just kind of see what happens. And one thing they've done a really nice job of, John, is mitigate the supply, cut the supply lines as much as possible around Lionel Messi, right? You guys know that's the only way to even fathom limiting his impact. On decision day, Messi had, I think it was 65, 68 touches on the ball. He had less than 50 in both games 1 and games 2 of the series. So I imagine they'll continue kind of going with that formula and see if they can just eke out a result.
Cut the promo for me. How can folks listen in?
So my colleague Will Bowling will be on the call for this one. He will step in alongside Eddie Carvacho. 104.5 The Zone is the terrestrial feed. The 104.5 The Zone app is where our radio call will be. And we'll see. I mean, it's crazy that Nashville kind of slipped up late in the regular season, fell to that 6th seed. But yet still there's this scenario on the table where they can host in the Eastern Conference semifinals if they can pull this off in Miami and Columbus gets a win in the Hell is Real Derby at TQL Stadium. So I'm sure it's I don't know, what are Atlanta fans rooting for this weekend?
Nashville.
Okay, there we go.
There is no rooting for the Messi and friends down at the erector set. That does not happen in this particular environment. As always, my friend, great to see you before you head into work. And thanks for the intel when it comes to Nashville. And all I just have to say that's left on the board is Pax Vobiscum, my friend. We will catch up with you soon.
I'm going to Google that when we get off, and I appreciate you. Thanks, John.
Be good. Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone up in Nashville. It's a peace be with you, basically, is what it is. And so, so I had a beef with Lucas's co-hosts and everything. So, anything. So I guess Lucas might have just been the entire opening kickoff. And I know that we've got discussions in the timeline about what's going on with Tata Martino and him coming in and all that kind of stuff. And it's great that we're going to be having this kind of ongoing conversation here during the show with all the guests that kind of drop in and everything. And they're asking us about Tata Martino, and we're asking them about their games and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to play a soundbite in a bit. Chris Henderson was on 92.9 The Game yesterday. Mike Conti was part of Dukes and Bell in the afternoon, and it was Carl and Mark Zinno, and Mike was interviewing Chris. We got a soundbite to play from that coming up in just a little bit. But right now, you're looking at Nashville, the late game on Saturday, scheduled for 8:12 on the TV side. And it is Minnesota, Seattle. Well, tonight it's Charlotte and NYC. And so we're going to catch up with Will Palaszczuk coming up at 10:30 and get his thoughts on match day 3. And we'll go through juice boxes and all the things. But yeah, there is no rooting in this footprint that I'm aware of for the Herons in this matchup against Nashville. And so it is the 4-5. We'll talk about that at 10:30 with Will Palaszczuk. Once again, 7:12 tonight on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. And the triple header tomorrow, Minnesota, Seattle. That's at 4:12. Cincinnati, Columbus. If you missed the conversation we had with Chris Doran, that's at 6:12. And the matchup with Nashville and Messi and Friends is at 8:12. And then Sunday Night Soccer is at the Murph Dragon with San Diego and Portland. That is at 9:12 kick as we go. But yeah, full disclosure. And I guess this is kind of story time with John here this morning, where it was when I was in high school, back in the days of, movable type and all that kind of stuff. Black and white TV, the whole thing. And it was, you're trying to take the SATs and you're trying to get prepared. And this was before the SAT was worth 2,400 points. This was back in the days of 1,600. And my grandfather basically told me, he said, "You are taking Latin. You are taking Latin." I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, great, fine. So in my first 2 years of high school, and when I went to high school, there was no middle school. It literally was 7th grade, elementary school, 8th grade, high school. So 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th, 11th, 12th. That was high school. So 8th grade, 9th grade, I took 2 years of Latin. 10th and 11th, I took 2 years of Spanish. Then when I was in college, I took 2 semesters of Latin because I knew it was going to be an easy 4 credit, meaning the number 4, one more than 3. Traditional semester classes give you 3 credit hours. Latin and languages would give you 4 at Florida State at the time. And so I took 2 semesters of Latin, and that got me 8 credit hours as opposed to the normal 6. I did not take the 3rd semester because if I did, it was going to be like reading, and nothing made my eyes glaze over more than trying to read passages in Latin all day. So took the 2 semesters, got the 8 hours, and stuck with my BS degree. And 2,400, Abby. Yeah, it's 2,400. It was 1,600 when I took it. Now it's up to 2,400. So it's 8, 8, and 8. And so it was a word builder. Specifically, I was to take Latin as a word builder for my vocabulary. And so that was where that came from. And like I said, I still use Latin today. And when Lucas broke out MO and the long version, modus operandi, I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I get it. I've done that before. And so I found that on his socials as I was searching, and it was like, yeah, that's fine with me. But then he's getting piled on for using those kinds of things. I use them all the time. Latin is not a dead language. It's only dead in its native tongue because Julius Caesar ain't alive anymore. But I was told that I was taking Latin. I took 2 semesters. It helped out my word building and my vocabulary, and you now see the end result. So, yeah, when Lucas was getting piled on and I knew that that he was what he was and using the Latin language. So it was perfectly acceptable to me, and I think his co-hosts need to go back to school and take the 2 co-hosts that did not. They need to go back to school and take Latin. But, yeah, I've taken Latin, took Latin in high school, took Latin in college, and it helped me out. And like I said, the end result. Anyway, that's story time with John for the day. And Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there is your QR code for Kickoff Coffee right there. You start your day with them at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And you go in, we ask that you buy out the store. Then when you buy out the store, use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. Yesterday, Chris Henderson was on with Mike, who was on with Carl and Zeno, who was filling in for Mike Bell, who is touring Europe. If you follow him on social, I think he was in Prague the other day. And one of the questions that was brought up by Mike had to do with how Tata was going to be integrating when it came to player choice and roster decisions and all that kind of stuff. So here's the quick soundbite yesterday with Chris Henderson and Mike as they were on 92.9 The Game, courtesy of 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app.
Yeah, it'll be really collaborative. We've had some really good initial meetings and going through the roster, talking about players, talking about different ways that we can support the team, going through each department. Tata and I have gone through this before in the summer of 23 when we retooled the Miami roster. And, we went on to win 2 trophies in that period of time. So we've gone through it before. He understands the roster mechanisms in the rules going through that and some of the restrictions in the salary cap. Obviously, when he came here in the expansion year, you have a whole different set of money. You have expansion funds. You have ways to build your roster that current teams that are in the league don't have. So there was an advantage for expansion teams for sure to have a good start. But we feel confident that we can add the pieces that can play in the identity and game model that Tata wants to play.
Chris Henderson yesterday, 92.9 The Game with Mike, as Mike was on yesterday afternoon from the studio while Dukes and Zeno were out in the field. So that was part of the conversation. Go back and listen to the whole thing. It's in the Off the Woodwork section. Actually, I think it's in the Off the Woodwork section, and if it's not there, it's in the Dukes and Bell section. It's about a 9-minute conversation that they had with Chris as he was off and running with Tata Martino. So the basics of that particular interview, October the 20th was when they started the interview process. And there were 5 or 6 that had gone in the door before Tata's first interview. The front office views it as a huge coup with someone who understands the value of MLS, bringing in players. It's with the question was asked about ties to South America and having a larger South America roster component. And Chris did admit that, and it's stuff that we have talked about in the past, where in South America you can find players of value, and it would be players that you're looking to fit your philosophy, that you wouldn't be spending an arm and your leg and someone else's leg to bring them into the fold. And so it's also being viewed, as it was once before, as a springboard, and that's what MLS has done, I think, over the last handful of years, where MLS is viewed and can be viewed by players as a springboard to go to Europe, Miggy, Almada, etc. So that they understand the value there as well. And you're trying to find the right pieces to support what Tata wants and the right combinations, and trying to break down what Tata is looking for there on the field. And you're also hoping that the players that you have in-house, Chris admitted that they were hoping that there's a bit of a kick in those new players and the players that are in-house with Tata coming in and seeing how everybody integrates. And so we'll see. Right now, that's going to be the next test. It's like, okay, what does – and that Tata came in probably with a dossier about 2 or 3 inches thick. If it was straight up paper, could have been, computer files or what have you. But if it was me, it would probably be something about that thick, and I'm holding my fingers about 2 or 2.5 inches apart. It's going to be a detailed file. Tata, that he came into the interviews as educated as humanly possible, not having anything left to chance. Nothing was left uncovered. And so I'm sure he went into those interviews as prepared as he always is, and has an idea as to what he wants when it comes to players and style and all this kind of stuff. So it will be interesting because we are 2 months away from training camp. You are a month away from free agency and roster decisions and things like that. I think it's December the 11th. We'll go back and I'll check that number, but you're about a month out from everyone having to make a decision when it comes to their rosters, the options and contracts that are going to be picked up. Salt Lake, RSL had their decisions that were announced. I want to say it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago. And Zach McMath was a name that was a part of the players that are not going to be back at the moment at RSL. So Zach McMath is another one of those keepers that is going to be out there for discussion and perusal. Zach McMath, Sean Johnson, Pedro Gallese. So you're looking at the Atlanta United goalkeeper situation. And now you get to add a Zach McMath as someone that you might raise your eyebrow and sit there and go, sit there and you put your fingers to your chin and you sit there and you go, okay. So that is at least the keeper position. And once again, you're going to see teams kind of trickling out with their information and all that kind of stuff coming out over the next month. And you'll see what Tata and Chris Henderson do. And Chris, in the interview, reinforced that with Mike Conti, the interview with Mike, that once again, they've worked before in the past. They worked down in Fort Lauderdale, and they won 2 trophies when they had their relationship down with Messi and friends. And so they have the working relationship / arrangement. I was going to try to use both words, and it came out jumbled. But they have the working relationship from the past. They know where each other is coming from. They know what the other is looking for. So the next stage in all of this, once again, is trying to figure out in this next month of roster decisions, who do you pick up your options on? And then who do you sit there and go, we're not going to pick up the option on those individuals. And like I said, we've gone over those particular decisions that have to be made, and it will once again, it will be a very, very interesting conversation. And then when we see the end of that conversation and what the decisions are that are made when it comes to Atlanta United, let's see if it gives me the whole thing this time. So yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, so I don't want that. So once again, let me just and remember that you have the players, the roster profiles once again as they were released back on the 19th of September. And the immediate questions that you have with Atlanta United once again. Option on Brooks Lennon, option on Jamal, option on Josh Cohen, option on Hernandez, option on Togashi. That's your senior roster decisions. And like I said, everybody else is under contract for more years than just a decision at the end of this year. I'm just using right now the examples of the 25s that could be renewed to 26. Supplementals, Leo Alfonso for 26 and 27. Matt Edwards, 26 and 27. Jay Fortune for 26. Jaden Hibbert and Will Riley, 26, 7, and 8. Nick Sessick, 26 and 27. Everyone else is under contract through 26 or later. I just wanted to remind everybody of the immediate contract decisions that have to be made. I left Brad Gazan out of the discussion considering that he has announced his retirement. So those are the immediate contract decisions that have to be made where Atlanta United is concerned. So that will be like the first level of decisions that have to be made. And then if you want to continue to go down that road and sit there and go, okay, this person, and then you work from there. But those are the immediate decisions that Atlanta United and Chris Henderson and Tata Martino and their staffs have to sift through over the next little while. So that's the rundown in all of that. So, all right. So Greg is traveling this morning. So we'll see if we'll see next time that Greg is not traveling. So let me shoot an email back to Greg Garza really quickly. Let's see. If I could type, then we could. we'll catch up with Greg and Parkey when we can catch up with Greg and Parkey. So Greg is traveling this morning. It was Greg's turn since Cap was on last time, and Michael was on his way to Charleston, South Carolina, to see what happened in round number 1, and now Rhode Island FC is traveling in round number 2 to take on North Carolina FC, and we know the black cloud hanging over that organization, as we've talked about that this week. And so Rhode Island FC continues to work their way through. We'll go over what else to look at coming up in this segment, because we've got Calen Carr coming up at 10, and at 10:30 it's Will Palaszczuk letting us know what's on his mind when it comes to Charlotte and NYCFC match day number 3. So that's the rundown of the show this morning as we have it. Dell, too soon. I know. Dell, I noticed, where's that? Where was it? The Charleston Stadium issue. The Charleston Stadium issue, apparently, now I need to, and I'll ask this, and Dell, you can respond on the timeline or DM me if you don't know. The Charleston Stadium issue where the Battery is concerned, it looks like Tim Tebow's group is part of a group that wants to build a stadium. Is this at the same site that you and I were talking about previously? I'm breaking the fourth wall here a little bit. So it's like Tim Tebow, Blake Bortles, and a third individual that I can't remember have their group, and they want to build a stadium in Charleston. And so it's CSL International is one, and the Tebow group is separate. So, yeah, it was Tim Tebow, Blake Bortles, and a third individual want to build a stadium in Charleston. Apparently, it's separate from CSL International. Okay, good to know. All right, so 2 separate groups want to build stadiums in Charleston as they want to get away from Patriots Point. So that was one of the questions I had, and thank you for clarifying that. We're going to try and track them down and find out what their thoughts are on building the stadium, where they want to do it, how they want to do it, what they want to do. Is it the multi-use, live, work, play kind of a thing? And that is where the USL is kind of leaning these days. I know that we had talked about the story involving Texoma, and Texoma dropping down to League 2. Apparently in Salina, they are going to have the same ownership group that has Texoma is going to have Rodeo SC, and it's going to be in 2 years, and they're going to jump back into League 1. So you'll have your pathway with Texoma, who wrapped up their season in League 1. They're dropping to League 2. Same ownership group is starting a team in Salina called Rodeo SC, and so Rodeo is going to be taking over that Texoma slot, but it's going to be, I think, in 2 years. So Texoma, Rodeo will have their own pathway going from USL League 2 to League 1 and so on. So there you go. Let me check and see what's on everybody's mind. I know that a lot of you are going back and forth about Tata and players and things like that. Morning, Alex. Morning, Abby. Morning, Dr. D. And Michael will find out. Michael's got a question about Miranchuk, and I know that in our conversations that we have, I know that you and I have respectful disagreements when it comes to Alexi, and so that's one of the questions. Like I said, that's why I mentioned the players that I did with the immediate contract element. That's the first stage. It's like, okay, these are the decisions we have to make by December 11th, and then we'll go as we go. So we'll see. That's, like I said, that is a question that has to be answered by the folks at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground, Tata Martino, head coach, Atlanta United. And apparently Abby and Dr. D found the hype train this morning. And I'd like to thank you for giving us a hype train on Twitch, but apparently the hype train gets in the way of the top of the comments for some folks as they're trying to watch. So yes, and then when it does run out, Dr. D is correct. The hype train does go away. Yes, there is no rooting for Messi and friends. Morning, DM Tim and Dell. Not a fan of Dan Lovitz, and not a fan of Luis Suarez either. You are in a majority opinion, sir. Yes. And well, we have as well. Alex says in the discussion about Nashville and Messi and friends, Lucas has been studying war history. He is always cutting off supply lines. It's really a battle of logistics. Absolutely true. You cut off the supply lines, and then you sit there and you starve the offense, basically. Morning, Abby, and let's see. Morning, Abby. Morning, Alex. Let's see. Why would they have Latin? I don't know. I mean, Dell, when I was in high school back in the late 1700s, that was what was offered. You know, you had the choice of French or Spanish or Latin. And it might have been just the teachers that the county had available at the time. So, I mean, it was The choice was one of those, and my grandfather was like, "You're taking Latin, kid." So I took Latin, and then I took Spanish. Drove both my teachers crazy. Second year of Latin in high school was a lot of reading, and I hated reading Latin. I mean, I could pronounce it, and I can still pronounce it to this day. And that's when I am dropping Latin phrases into the discussion, I am doing it in the Latin pronouncer. And sometimes I'll anglicize it. But no, Pax Vobiscum, peace be with you. You know, that's just how I'm wired when it comes to these kinds of things. I mean, it might have been just because they had teachers that only could teach in the county Latin and Spanish and German and French. Because I remember, and French too, definitely. So that was kind of where that was. And so Abby and Morning KFC, Cacamara Sauce, Low Key Friday. And let's see. So Abby and Michael and Dell and Thomas, good to see you. Thomas, good morning. And let's see. Okay, thank you. Dell's giving me the link to the stadium project idea in Charleston. Thank you. Afternoon from Berlin. Ricky made it. Nice. Excellent. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. And so, yes, Michael's boss actually took Latin in high school also. So, yes, Latin is not a dead language. Figure out how to benefit from the Twitch subscriptions. Did I say it didn't help? You're asking me about how to do things in Twitch. I don't know. I have yet to figure out how to benefit from it. I need to be cloned so someone can focus on Twitch. Dell, thank you for reminding me of that, by the way. All right. Once again, Calen Carr coming up in about 20 minutes. So Chris Henderson has made the tour. He talked to 92.9 The Game yesterday. I know that you guys are going to have the conversations that you're what's going on with Atlanta United. Obviously, that's going to be something that's going to be a continuing conversation as we go, especially as we get closer to the reintroduction press conference of Tata Martino, and that's probably going to be like late next week, maybe this time next week, somewhere in there. And so we'll see what Tata has in mind when he is reintroduced as head coach for Atlanta United. Dell, thank you. And that reminds me, we are efforting some stories out of Qatar, and hopefully we can have them up this weekend. Let me go through the scores as we have them in the U17s and probably do a bit of a weekend preview here as well with all of the other leagues and what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, those kinds of things. Let's see. So U17s this morning. Next match for the U.S. is tomorrow against Tajikistan. England put 8 on Haiti, El Salvador, and Colombia, a goalless draw. Yesterday after we went off the air, Croatia beat UAE 3-0. Qatar and South Africa 1-1 draw. Senegal shut out Costa Rica 1-0. This morning, England 8-1 over Haiti, El Salvador, and Colombia, a goalless draw. 9 minutes to go. It is Germany and Korea DPR. They are tied at 1. Same score, Egypt and Venezuela. That is in the 54th minute. About ready to kick. It is Mexico and Ivory Coast. That is on FS2 and Telemundo in a half hour. Switzerland and South Korea. Brazil and Indonesia is in an hour, as is Zambia and Honduras. Next match for the U.S., once again, 9:45 tomorrow morning. It's on Peacock FS2 and Telemundo against Tajikistan. We are efforting interviews out of Qatar. We will keep you posted on that. We will keep you posted on that as well. So U17 is looking to add another win tomorrow against Tajikistan. And the OG is correct. Yes, law and medicine, they still use Latin, yes. And so that was why when Lucas was on, I did mention pro bono and things like that. But there are other legal terms and medical terms that are used that are far longer and far deeper than what we would ever use here in the show. QED, quod erat demonstrandum, as the facts display, basically. When you see a QED, that's basically someone's shortened way of sitting there saying, as the facts have basically already been laid out, I don't want to have to repeat myself. So this plus this, QED equals this. So that's where that is. All right. So they're getting ready to kick off at the 9:45s. We'll keep an eye on that. Okay. Yes. Also this weekend, it's the next round in the Premier League. Middlesbrough has canceled Rob Edwards' press conference amid interest from Molyneux. I would tell Rob, no. Yes, he did have 100 appearances for Wolves from 2004 to 2008. Edwards was a candidate following Vitor Pereira's sacking 5 days ago. They're looking for a manager. Rob, they better pay you. That's all I'm saying. So Middlesbrough canceled their press conference this morning amid Rob Edwards' interest, or Wolves' interest in Rob Edwards. Initially, Wolves was told no and had the proverbial door slammed in their face as to wanting to interview Rob Edwards, but they canceled the Middlesbrough press op, so keep an eye on that. Let's see. Transfer Center this morning. Sandro Tonali found this out about an hour ago from Keith Downey. He does not have a release clause in his contract. Signed that contract extension when Newcastle supported him during his 10-month gambling ban. The extension runs through 29, option for an additional year. The fresh agreement does not contain a release clause, as some fans have feared, according to Keith, meaning Newcastle have more security and strength over his future at the club. He's happy there, he says, and is going to view his future on a year-by-year basis. Jude Bellingham is in the squad for England, and that squad has been announced. Eric Ten Hag has been approached over a managerial return to Ajax, according to Fabrizio Romano, after the Dutch Giants sacked boss John Heitinga. Ajax have dismissed the ex-Everton defender after 5 months on the job, despite having a contract until summer of 27. One of Arne Slot's assistants at Liverpool, sacked after losing in Champions League at home to Galatasaray. Ajax are fourth in the Eredivisie, and they've won just one of their last 7 in all comps. Southampton confirmed that Oriol Romeu has rejoined on a contract running to the end of the season. First arrived 10 years ago at St. Mary's. He is now 34. Also, let's see. Fabian Hertzler says he wouldn't swap inform Danny Welbeck for any player in the world. 6 goals in 10 matches so far this season for Brighton. It is James Collins and Richard Walker set to take Wolves into their game against Chelsea on Saturday. The 2 academy coaches are going to be in charge on the touchline. Johnny Evans had some discussions about playing for Sir Alex Ferguson and a taxi to Sunderland. If you want to listen to that interview, we had the Tonali update on the future. Liverpool are going to compete with Bayern Munich for signing of Mark Gahey, apparently. Liverpool, Bayern Munich, the front runners. Arsene Wenger slamming Liverpool's decision to spend big on Florian Wirtz. And let's check the papers and avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers as we go. Tottenham want to reward Mickey Van de Ven, according to the Telegraph, with a new contract and a pay rise to reflect the club rate him and Christian Romero as one of the best pairings in the Premier League. Let's see. We'll skip the 4-letter paper, skip the 3-letter paper. Hansi Flick has no intention of leaving next summer, despite sports reports in Spain. He's tired of the club and plans to resign. That's from Sky Germany. Also, really don't care about rugby, so it's a light day when it comes to all of the news and what to expect from overseas. We'll get into juice boxes here in a sec. We have today BNB and Espanol simulcasting the Polish League at noon and Ligue 1 with Paris and Rennes at 2:45. You can get all the BNs at fntz.co/soccer down here, and you can get that. TSA has gone wall to wall in looking at Boca and River. That is going to be their coverage all day Sunday. That is where one of my TVs is going to be, Boca and River. FS2, once again, the back end of the doubleheader, Mexico and Ivory Coast. It is now underway. 3rd minute, late no score. ESPN Deportes at 3, La Liga, Elche and Real Sociedad. Telemundo simulcasting what's going on right now. Tonight, Charlotte and NYC. Once again, 7:12 kick. A-League on the plus, Eredivisie on the plus, Bundesliga on the plus, Bundesliga 2 on the plus, La Liga on the plus, Serie A at Paramount plus, National, the NWSL playoffs, Orlando and Seattle, Friday night soccer on Prime. That is at 8. And then once again, it is A-League action on the plus on the women's side, 3 at 10 p.m. and at noon. Tomorrow, I'm just going to give you the leagues and tell you when, and tell you where, because there's a lot. Liga is on BN and Espanol, a triple header. They got the Polish League at noon. CBS Sports Network, English Championship, doubleheader, 7:30 and 10. FS1, triple header, U17 World Cup, including the Tajikistan match with the U.S. and Tajikistan, 9:45. Match at 7:30, match at 10:45. Mexico's Liga MX at 6 o'clock. The league we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. Doubleheader, 9 and 12:30 at night. FS2 has the USA match as well. NBC has a doubleheader in the Premier League, 12:30 and 3. USA has the Premier League at 10. BN and Espanol simulcasting everything that BN is doing. ESPN Deportes quadruple header in La Liga. That includes Atletico de Madrid Levante at 12:30. Fox Deportes, 9 a.m. and noon. Liga MX on Fox Deportes at 6. Telemundo simulcasting the USA match. They've got Liga MX at 6:07. 2 to NA doubleheader at 8 and 10:05 for Sábado Gigante. It is Universo, Sábado Futbolero, sorry. Sábado Gigante was the Don Francisco show. Universo's at 6. Univision Liga MX is at 8. The triple header on Season Pass at 4, 12, 6, 12, and 8, 12. ESPN Plus has A-League, Bundesliga, Bundesliga 2, La Liga quadruple header, USL Championship playoffs. We'll go over juice boxes in a sec. League One playoffs at 7 o'clock with Knoxville and Naples. Next Pro final, Red Bulls 2, Colorado Rapids 2 is at 7 o'clock at MLSNextPro.com. NBCSports.com has Everton and Fulham. Paramount Plus, 6 matches in the championship, 2 in Serie A, 2 in Liga MX, St. Mirren and Hibs at 12:45. Peacock has a quadruple header and the U17 World Cups. NWSL playoffs at noon on Big CBS. FS1 has U17 World Cup final, Netherlands and North Korea. Serie A at 6:30 in the morning. And ESPN Plus, A-League, Women's English Super League, 2 matches at 7. Peacock has 3 games in the Cambridge Super League and the U17 final. That's your Saturday. Man, okay. Juice boxes. Let's get you into that before we head into Calen Carr joining us in 10 minutes and Will Palaszczuk joining us at 10:30. Juice boxes right now. Charlotte is ahead. They are a favorite at home against NYC at a plus 146. Draws a plus 231. And NYC is a plus 183. Triple header tomorrow. Minnesota plus 195 hosting Seattle. So Minnesota's a dog at home and a big underdog. Seattle's a plus 123. Hell is real. Go back and listen to the Chris Doran interview that we had yesterday. FC Cincinnati favorite at a plus 139. Crew a plus 167. 90-minute draws a plus 270. Messi and Friends prohibitive favorite at home against Nashville at a minus 196. Nashville a plus 434 to win in 90 minutes. 90-minute draw plus 373. Playoffs, San Diego and Portland. Sunday night soccer. San Diego is a minus 169 at the Murph Dragon. Portland a plus 384. Draw is a plus 336. Now, let's get you into the Premier League. Once again, last weekend before the international break, all over again. Let's do favorites. Manchester United, slight favorite, the early game at Spurs. Everton, favorite at home against Fulham. West Ham on the minus side, favorite against Burnley at minus 106. And 2 games at 10 and 1 at 12:30. Sunderland, a plus 700 underdog, hosting Arsenal at a minus 250. 3 o'clock, Chelsea and Wolves. Chelsea a minus 270. Wolves are a plus 727. On Sunday morning, quadruple header, 9 o'clock. Villa favored at home at a plus 122 against Bournemouth. Newcastle favored on the road, a plus 148 at Brentford. Crystal Palace plus 127 at home hosting Brighton. Forest a plus 127 at home hosting Leeds. 11:30, Manchester City a minus 111 hosting Liverpool at a plus 277. Draws a plus 305. Once again, next weekend, international break. They don't come back until the 22nd of November. Now, let's see if we have any juice boxes with anything else going on in the U.S. We mentioned the USL Championship. The final 8 there. North Carolina FC favored against Rhode Island at a plus 152. That's at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Riverhounds plus 100, even money, favored against Detroit City, the 8th seed at a plus 258. 8 o'clock, Tulsa minus 125 hosting Phoenix Rising, who are a plus 292. New Mexico United at the Lab at 9 o'clock Eastern, minus 104, hosting Orange County at a plus 240. And the 90-minute draw there is a plus 249. Now, the NWSL in their opening rounds of playoffs, juice boxes there. Orlando tonight, big favorite against Seattle at a minus 175. Tomorrow at noon, Washington minus 147 hosting Racing Louisville at a plus 332. Then Sunday, Kansas City, big favorite against Gotham at a minus 159. Portland at 3 o'clock, favored slightly against San Diego at a plus 136. San Diego is a plus 173. We will talk about all of that on Monday. Man, there's a lot to get into this morning. So there's those stories that are up and around. Once again, Middlesbrough rejected Rob Edwards' the approach for Rob Edwards. And Thomas Tuchel says he's delighted to recall Bellingham and Foden back into the lineup, the permanent successor after Gareth Southgate. Over halfway through his contract is Thomas Tuchel right now. So that is that is where Thomas Tuchel is as you're getting ready for the cup that the world is chasing after in 2026. So November international break fixtures, Serbia and Albania. Phil Foden hasn't represented England since March, and he gets the return after Manchester City took care of Borussia Dortmund. Jude Bellingham returns after he was left out of the squad in October, despite saying he was fit and that he wanted to be called up. Alex Scott from Bournemouth gets his first call up. The 22-year-old midfielder has represented England at the Euros in both the U19 and the U21. Danny Welbeck was not included. Anthony Gordon has been named. Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace returns on missing out on England's last two squads, pulling out of the August selection due to injury. No spots for Gibbs White, Loftus-Cheek, and Lewis Skelly, so there's no hyphens available this time around for Thomas Tuchel, who have been omitted. Nick Pope replaces James Trafford. Ollie Watkins also drops out. Thomas Tuchel has explained his absence due to an ongoing injury issue that leaves Harry Kane as the only recognized number 9. So that is the Elliot Anderson. Last two camps. Now you have 3 defensive midfielders to look at. Obviously, a lot of folks were staring at Danny Welbeck as possibly getting a call up, but in these 2 friendlies that are coming up in this window, it's going to be one of those instances with very limited name power up top. But it is also just friendlies, and so Thomas Tuchel might be just kicking the tires on some ideas, and so we'll see what Thomas Tuchel has in mind next weekend in his friendlies as we go. So that is the quick tour of everything that is going on here, getting ready for this weekend. It's a lot of stuff going on. And we also mentioned, like I said, we mentioned Boca and River, and that's going to be on Sunday. And if there's any way that in addition to the American football that you have tied into your locked in place with your American football, if you've got a way to watch Boca and River, say on Fanatis, then you can. Then I would recommend it. It is like one of the Super Bowls of football, period. And so if you've got an opportunity to have it on in the room, watch the pageantry, watch the game, watch how important it is. Boca and River is going to be up and running on Sunday, and it's going to be off the charts. So if you have the opportunity to keep an eye out for all of that, add Boca and River to the mix. If you haven't had the chance to watch Boca and River before, go watch Boca and River. It's going to be well worth the time. Trust me, it is going to be well worth the time as a part of your time investment for the weekend. I know that a lot of you are still having the discussions about rosters and things like that, and I know that is going to be a continual discussion as we go. Soccer for Good OG mentioned Steven Alzate going to Lindbergh last night. Jason was at the GA100 project, the latest release in DeKalb County, and Alexi and Amy High, they were there for like an hour, and they were playing with all of the kids that were there, and it was a real treat. If you have the chance to talk to Jason about it, seeing Alexi and Mihai there and just sharing the game with the kids. It was fantastic. It was fantastic to see the video come out from the GA100 release there with the pitch itself being christened, and then you have Alexi and Anea staying as long as they did to kind of help share the game. So it's very, very cool there from those two guys here in the midweek. All right, getting ready for hour number 2. Once again, Calen Carr are going to join us. There are a couple things I wanted to catch up with Calen about. He has been traveling the planet, and so we will be discussing his travels. But there was a piece, and I don't know if you had the chance to see it, but it was posted to social media, and it was part of the Field Notes project that Major League Soccer has. And it was where Calen caught up with Colin Sexton. And it was when Colin got to hammer the golden spike, and it was kind of letting everybody know about Terminus and about all of the things that make being a 17 special and what it means and all that kind of stuff. So it's out there. So if you want to go back and check Calen Carr on the 280 character app, then you can go do that. And it's in his timeline or in the mentions, and you can go back and see. It's about 3 minutes long, but it is definitely worth your time as Calen got to catch up with Colin, find out what it's like for Colin to be a part of game day and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to ask him about that in addition to everything else that's going on this weekend, and find out where Calen is, and find out what he thinks about the upcoming window and the upcoming lineups for the weekend with the 5 games. And I think this is the most match days that we've had in a deciding best of 3 match day setting. And so I think it's going to be really cool to have all 5 of these. Like I said, there's the 1 today, and then you've got the 3 tomorrow, and then you've got the 1 on Sunday to have everything work your way through and get ready for the semifinals and brackets and things like that. I didn't fill out a bracket because, as we all know, when I fill out a bracket, then usually even if I don't fill out a bracket, just whatever Nelson says, do the opposite. If it comes down to something like that, especially like picks of the week for soccer over there, if you've had the chance to listen to SOT on Monday nights, then it's an opportunity for us to sit here and make picks. And I wrote all of the picks down, and I almost forgot to send them to Jason after we made the selections. So I had to scan the picks, and I thought I sent them to him, but it never got there. So I had to actually scan it twice and send it twice. But that's me and technology. All right. Start of hour number 2. And as I say, every single time that we have someone new pop in, I apologize for not having the trumpet fanfare and the serpentina and all of the stuff that you throw up into the air when folks wander by. It is the debut of Calen Carr here on the morning show. And Calen, we welcome you to Freestyle Friday and all of the chaos that ensued.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Before you came on, I reminded folks about a piece that you did that's in the field notes section for Major League Soccer. And it's available on social, and people can go find it. And it was a really cool piece that you got to do with Colin Sexton here on a match day. What was it like for you to learn about everything in Terminus and all of this as you were putting this piece together? Because I thought it was a really cool depiction of Colin and what it was like for him to be a part of game day, but for everybody else around Major League Soccer to learn about Terminus and about the Spike and everything that's Atlanta United.
Yeah, thanks, John. No, it was really fun to do. I mean, I think the concept for me on the Field Notes series overall was, the Field Notes literally as I take notes heading into every match day. But then also there's so much that you don't see behind the scenes of what goes into calling a match on Apple TV, as well as some of the rituals and interesting things that are unique to each city. And the Golden Spike was something that I had always, of course, seen just, on the broadcast or when I'd been to Atlanta games. But I didn't think I really got a great sense of exactly what that was. So I spoke to some people at the club and was like, hey, who's coming the week that I'm calling this match? And Colin happened to be the one that was there. And I was like, oh man, I've seen him play in NBA and I know he's a local guy. And so this feels kind of perfect. And I was like, can I grab him for a couple minutes before the game? And, the funny part was, it was like, I did a pregame hit on Apple. Then I ran over to grab Colin real quick, talked to him for 10 minutes as he was getting ready to do the Golden Spike about it. And then the day afterwards, I found a really cool transportation museum out in Duluth, and went out there and just started researching more and more about the history of the city and the transportation hub. And that kind of went behind the Golden Spike. And then we kind of smashed it all together for a fun little piece. But yeah, that's one of the better parts for me of doing this whole project is calling the matches, being there, but then kind of learning a little bit more of the culture and history of the city as well.
And we had big news here yesterday. Tata Martino returns as head coach. He gets to put that back on the business card for a second tour. When you saw this trickle through, what were your immediate thoughts?
I mean, had kind of bandied it about with some friends before about is this possible? Where's Tata gonna go? I thought also he was going to be highly coveted wherever. I thought maybe LAFC. I thought, maybe some other openings, but I thought maybe Atlanta, because of the history, that might actually stop him from coming back in a way, or stopping the club from coming back, just as, not wanting to maybe try to bring back the old magic or go backwards. But I think at the same time, it's kind of perfect when I think about it more, because I had looked at it and, even calling that last game, there are just these moments where you're like, oh, you see the spark of things coming alive again, or getting out in transition, and I think for Atlanta fans and for anybody that's watched this club, you kind of want that back. You want to go back to that idea and having that clear plan. So I think in a lot of ways now there's some new excitement, some new energy. You would know better than I would, but I would imagine opening day now with Tata back is going to be a totally new energy coming back into the team.
Yeah, stacked, packed, and racked is how it's been in our Twitch pitch, as we call it. All of our viewers and listeners, we have the continual Twitch commentary, and it pretty much, when the announcement hit yesterday, it started at about 25 minutes before, like a half hour before the announcement, when Atlanta United posts the hashtag the 5 Stripes Don't Stop videos, which is like the trigger for, okay, something's happening. And then everybody, starts to go towards social media. Then after 10 o'clock, and you look in the video and you see the silhouetted figure take the wrap, and it does the whole thing where you put it over the shoulders, and the sleeves come over, and it's tied right here. And everybody here in this footprint that is a 17 that's like, oh, we know what that means, because only one dude has ever done the sweater over with the tie, and everybody's like, okay. And so it's getting closer and closer. And then a little after 10 o'clock, the announcement happens, and then basically the world exploded. And there is a great deal of anticipation here, but it has been said by Chris Henderson in interviews that this is not, getting the band back together. This is not for nostalgia's sake. Tata doesn't do nostalgia. This is something where he sees something that has promise. He's coming back to a place where he has been before. But this is not messing around, and this is not just kind of sitting there and taking a lap. No, this is serious business with him coming back, and it will be interesting. We talked about it in hour number 1 about the pieces that are being reviewed for contract renewals in the short term, 25s that have 26 options, and then those other players. And I think this next month, before you have to have your free agent list out, is going to be that first indicator of maybe a direction as to what you're hunting for here when it comes to those players 16 through 30. And then you go 1 to 16 and figure out your philosophy from there.
Yeah, and I think you're right to point out the timing of it. Getting this done early is massive, because exactly of what you're describing of like those decisions on what the style is going to be and the fit. And then it's like, because there is some restructuring, some reworking of what this roster needs to be like, what the game model is going to be, what the style of play is going to look like. And Tata was such a good part, a huge part of that, of even down to the recruitment of in the past, where he was able to go and have that sort of gravitas to be able to bring players in and want to be there. And look, when you mentioned Chris Henderson, his time in Miami, it was a wild success with Tata. And I think it was a mistake, frankly, for Inter Miami to move on from him. And they set the points record. They got obviously outed in the first round by Atlanta United, but that didn't seem to me like a coaching issue. There was some other issues going on, but that's kind of the state of things right now, where if you don't win it all in Miami, you're out and the next one is in. That's pro sports. But yeah, when you think of like a guy with the experience he has internationally, the championship pedigree in MLS, that's why I thought he could fit at a lot of different clubs that a lot of people would be trying to come and get him. But for him to want to come back to Atlanta, I think is huge. And as you mentioned, the timing to be able to have some time to like really start to dig into this project again is going to be really big.
Calen Carr dropping by here on the morning show, as he is a world traveler. Well, he's a continental traveler. Let's put it that way. It seems like every match I turn on Apple TV, you're down on the field with a microphone talking to folks.
Yeah.
Please tell me you're getting miles and points for all of this stuff.
I am. I'm not getting a lot of sleep, but I'm getting a lot of miles. I also have a 3-month-old, so that's also
yes. Yeah, I heard the studio audience back there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We are.
My wife's from Atlanta, so we got to get him some Atlanta United gear. We brought him down actually for the last game of the season. So
okay.
Yeah, but the traveling's been great. I've been to Vancouver, then the next morning to Minneapolis, then Chicago, then back to Seattle and back again. So it's been a fun ride. I think doing the sideline has been cool. You get a different perspective. Been down up close to the pitch, and I like the bird's eye view of being at the bends and seeing the whole field and diving into the tactics. But I think in some ways, like, being back on the field again reminds me of like how fast it is when you're a player and how quickly things move, and getting a closer look at like how Andres Kubas and Seb Berhalter from Vancouver, Thomas Mueller, how they orchestrate and dominate a midfield. Like those little things have been really cool for me in this playoff run so far.
When you look at the 5 matches that start tonight in the 1-3-1 format of Friday, 3 on Saturday, where it is like it literally is Sabado Futbolero for MLS on Saturday, going at 6. But the triple header there, and then you got Sunday night soccer because Sunday follows Saturday. John, when you look at these 5 matches, what sticks out in your head about these best ofs and win or go home?
Well, I'm excited. I mean, mainly because it's a little awkward for me still with the format of like when Cincinnati got ran off the pitch and then it's like, well, okay, let's get back up and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is like that's not the playoffs I remember. That's not like the way you should be able to kind of like rebound like that. And I understand they had the red card to Kubo and all that, but I'm excited to get to these game 3s mainly because there is no room for error. You can't have an off day now, and that's what I think what we're all most excited about. And then from here on out, it's all the way through like that. And the Miami one. Now that talking about the Atlanta series last year, like that one excites me. I did the first game for Atlanta Nashville on Fox with Callum Williams, and it was pretty dominant from Atlanta United or from Inter Miami. But I think Nashville had something to say about it still. I think they still have a lot left. But I think you have to be aggressive. You can't play against Miami and sit back and be tepid. And I thought they were a little too defensive in the first match. So they have to really push that game because I think the only way to beat Inter Miami is just full foot on the gas. I've been doing a bunch of the Seattle Minneapolis games. That's going to be cagey back in Minneapolis, but I think Seattle now has the edge again after really kind of like coming out at home and getting that confidence back. So, but I love the format now and getting to this third matches because all weekend it's like you can't go to the fridge, you can't you can't raise your kid, you gotta like grab them. Everybody, we're right on top of this, and that's going to be the most exciting part for me. I do think we're going to see maybe 1, maybe 2 upsets.
Oh, okay. So do you get to travel this weekend, or are you getting to share the experience with the 3-month-old this weekend?
I am calling the MLS Next Pro Cup on Saturday. Yeah. So I got to interview Michael Bradley yesterday, who's now a manager for Red Bulls 2, and they're playing against Colorado Rapids 2 on Saturday night. So that's going to be fun. But I'm going to be monitoring, all day, watching the games, and then also, getting a chance to see some pretty talented young guys that are coming through and wanting to make their mark in MLS.
Okay, so since you've opened the Next Pro door, let me go ahead and go here. Since we are the voice of the twos here with Atlanta United on the SDH network, when Michael Bradley showed up, a lot of folks looked at that first number on the board and they gave up, was it 9? And everybody was like, whoa, what is going on there with Red Bulls 2? But as the season has gone along, they have toned things defensively where they're really hard to go up against, and they seem to be scoring 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5. I don't know what it is, if that's a magic number, if Michael's a numerologist and has them stop or whatever. But for Colorado, I think for Rapids 2 in this matchup, I think for them, they've got to keep it closer. I think the tighter the score and the tighter the game, I think it benefits the Rapids more. The more wide open it gets, I think it benefits Red Bulls more.
I love that, and you just nailed my pregame show. So we're ready to roll. I think Colorado. It's interesting because these two teams haven't faced each other too, and because of the conferences, you basically play teams in your side of the country, so you don't quite have the same kind of data to go back and look at of exactly how these two teams match up. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And Red Bull, of course, anytime you play in a final, they had a pretty good crowd at this last match against Philadelphia. And I really like their midfielder, Audrey Mehmeti. He's I think 15 years old and the captain of 16 now. So just like a ton of young talent. And I think Red Bull can put some balls in the back of the net if they get going. But Colorado, they've been a strong team. They've gotten all the way through here, and they're really strong in transition, which sets up well for moments where Red Bull open themselves up and they can try to hit them quickly.
All right. So you mentioned upsets. Now that we've spent our time in MLS Next Pro and whiplashing back to the 5 matchups, Will Palaszczuk, play-by-play voice of Charlotte, coming up here in just a second. You mentioned upsets. So if I'm talking Charlotte NYC, Minnesota Seattle, which is a 4-5. So if you called that one, that might not necessarily be an upset. Hell is Real Volume 3, Nashville and Messi and Friends, San Diego at home at the Murph Dragon against Portland. Where would your upsets be?
The first one for me jumps out the most with New York City and Charlotte. I would give the edge to New York on this one, and I know Charlotte are the top 4 seeds, but I think and Kalina's been great, but I think Freeze is one of the best goalkeepers in MLS, and they have the ability, I think, to do enough in this one to get through with Alonso Martinez and. Who's kind of taking it to another level. I'm the goal he scored in that first one. I'm like, okay, this guy's probably not going to be around long in MLS.
Right.
So yeah, I like that one as a pick, and the other one I still can't let go of a little bit is Nashville, Miami, and I know that's like it could go the other direction and probably be like 5-2 for Miami, but. I think if Nashville can jump out there and really try to push this, I don't think Miami are untouchable either. So, and Nashville have the specific qualities in transition that I think can really hurt Miami. So, those are the 2 that I think stand out to me right now. I think I'm and I guess you give Seattle. I also mentioned as a even though I feel like anytime Seattle's in the playoffs, 4 or 5 seed is not like a huge upset for them. But.
Yep, no doubt. When Calen calls games, does he have the microphone separate from the headset? Does he have the hooded mic?
Yeah, it's a lip mic. Yeah, he has it set up a little different. Yeah.
Okay, because it's just one of those things that I've always wondered about. I didn't know if he carried that radio aspect with him, where he had the lip mic. Okay,
he's used to. I think like in England, they tend to they do it out. He was telling me they often do it outside, like in the gantry, they call it. So it helps with that. And for me, actually, getting to work with him in the beginning, it was very easy because when he's not speaking, he can move it away from his mouth, and it's a nice, easy cue to know that there's space for me to come in and versus the headset, which is you're kind of always on. So yeah, it's been fun working with him. I haven't adopted it yet. It looks cool to me, but I don't think it's it's an advanced level.
I need my hands to do other things, man. It's like I need them to do, so I can't, unless it's on like a mic stand in front of me where I know I can go and lean in. I gotta have both hands working. So
yeah, I'm working on that.
Braver soul than I. You now officially know where the key is under the mat. You know where the garage door opener is. So if you want to crash anytime, I know that on the Thursday before MLS Cup final, considering that the World Cup draw is that Friday, the Thursday before the final, I think that's December 4. We're going to be doing our show of chaos and trying to invite as many Apple TV friends as possible to talk about the season and senior superlatives. And they're going to open up their high school yearbooks, and we're going to talk about the season in general, talk MLS Cup. So that's your official invite. Crash whenever you feel. If you got anything you want to get off your chest, as always, my friend, great to see you. Don't be a stranger.
No, appreciate it. Thanks for giving the little shout out to Field Notes too. All those are on YouTube or my Instagram, CA2. But appreciate you having me on, and yeah, would love to hop back in.
Good deal. All right, Calen, be safe and go spend time with that 3-month-old.
All right, sounds good. We'll do.
All right, Calen Carr, everybody. And so the hot tag, literally, this is where you're going from one corner of the ring to the other, and you make the long jump, and you sit there and you make the tag. Calen Carr out, Will Palaszczuk in, play-by-play voice for Charlotte. And I know, Will, you heard what Calen was saying about the match.
Oh, I heard him.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I heard him.
Match day 3, I know. What are some of your takeaways from match day 2? Let's go backward before we go forward here. But some of the stuff that has stuck with you from match day 2 as you get ready for match day 3.
Well, I'm glad that this game tonight is in a traditional pitch and not a baseball stadium. So I'm happy about that part.
The 68 by 106 isn't fitting for you?
Not quite. That's also a conservative estimate, I would say.
That's what Vermes measured it at, so that's why I was going with that. So he measured it at that.
I'm with you. And he's trustworthy, so I'll take him at his word there. But I think you saw a different kind of aggressiveness from Charlotte FC. Obviously, having Wilfred Zaha back helps with that. And I think, too, you really saw their ability to create chances. They had 3 high danger chances in the opening half. Westwood hit the bar, as did Bronico, and then Toffolo had one on the doorstep that he has told me multiple times since I've seen him that he wants it back, because he definitely felt like an opportunity to get his first goal with Charlotte there. I think that New York created a couple of good chances, but they both came off of set pieces, and you made some pretty high danger saves with Christian Kalina. I didn't really think that they were all that threatening outside of those 2 chances. I thought that Kalina was pretty comfortable. So I think it's a situation where you're playing at home. You want to do right by the fans who were here Tuesday night and didn't exactly see your best performance. You have Zaha in this game when you didn't have him in game 1. And I just think the home form will eventually win out. And I think, that's a hard way of saying, yes, you have to go and get a going to class, which, it's hard to predict for that. You would have loved to be, fully stocked with both Zaha and Pep Biel. But at the same point in time, I feel good enough about Charlotte's defensive solidarity, and I feel good enough about their opportunities to get a moment of class in a game of this magnitude. And I think also the 12th man, and I heard a rumor about who the coronation guest is going to be.
Yeah.
I can't tell you who it is, but it's going to be somebody who is going to make the people here locally go crazy. So there's that.
Ooh, okay.
So I know. So I feel like it's something that could really boost them early. I would say that.
Okay. See, now you have us intrigued.
I cannot reveal it. I was literally just told that I'm at the stadium right now. By the way, like I'm in one of the suites. So they told me who it was. I was like, and they were like, "This is going to be big." And I'm like,
yeah. I mean,
okay.
If you can't say nothing, then I mean that's.
It's not me. First off, it's not.
Well, but I mean, you're there consistently, and you'd have to be doing like 9 things at once, because I imagine if you were doing it, then you would probably have the up-to-date headset to where you would be wandering down and doing a live.
I would need Callum's lip mic is what I would need. I need the Callum lip mic.
I mean, that would be epic if you could pull something like that off.
I have lip mic envy whenever I see Callum Williams too, by the way, because that thing. Yeah, he takes a certain amount of swagger to be able to carry that thing around.
Mm-hmm. And he is a better man and a braver man than I doing it. I would love to have one. I know they're not cheap. And
I looked them up. They are definitely not cheap. Definitely not cheap.
That is something that maybe for Santa can bring by.
You could buy a whole like broadcast setup, sans mic, without for what it would cost to purchase that.
Wow. Okay. When you look at obviously we look at the numbers from SofaScore as kind of like our base for knowledge. Starting 11 last time out, it was Kalina, Toffolo, Ream, Malanda, Byrne, Diani, Westwood, Zaha, Bronico, Vargas, and Toklamati. No changes, no thoughts about any kind of a tweak or anything in there. Nothing from the week of practice that would lend names to being swapped out. It's going to be this 11, you think?
I think it was pretty telling that in the 0-0 draw, Dean made 1 sub in the game against New York in game 2, and that was a good win for Bronico when they were trying to get a goal. And I think he has his 11. I think he has it pretty locked and set. Pep Biel's not back yet, so I think at this point of the season, the zebra doesn't change its stripes if you have the full-fledged 11 that you can bring in. I do think he might have to make some more subs in this one, just because you don't want to have guys tire themselves out. I think there was actually, when I was thinking about game 3 last year against Orlando, after Karol Swiderski scored that goal in like the 77th minute, he made a couple of defensive subs. I'm wondering if he goes and maybe makes it, maybe he's a little bit more conservative, because he's somebody who's reticent to mess with it if it's working. So I'm wondering how he approaches that. If say Charlotte has a lead again late, do you try to go uber defensive and then, potentially leave yourself in peril for the penalties? Or do you go out and try to, win the game with those who started it? So I'm very, very curious about that, especially knowing that if you win the game, you get another week off. And that would be something, obviously, that's an advantage on the back end.
Yep, Archie Goodwin, the only sub last time out, came in for the last 15 for Bronico, so 15 plus with Archie Goodwin.
And he was cool to talk to earlier this week, because he told us that he went up to Dean and said, "I want the first penalty." And he's somebody who's he turns 21 today. for the record. So if he gets a goal tonight, I've already said that he's probably going to get a Foster's from me.
Yeah.
Because he can legally have one now in
There you
this
go.
country. But at the same point in time, having that kind of gumption for a player of that nature who's literally not done much with the squad yet. I think he's taken like 3 penalties in his career. He had like 2 in the African Cup, in the World Cup qualifier, and then one for his club team. So it's a situation where seeing that kind of buy-in and gumption from a team gives you a little bit more of a confidence to say, hey, you know what? These guys feel like they're not too big for the moment. And I think Dean Smith also said something very interesting this week. He said, it's not life or death, guys. It's just a playoff game. And I think that was an interesting bit of levity when we see sometimes a lot of coaches try to go to a different level. He's going for the more human aspect, saying, look, this is a game of football. This is what you guys are meant to do. It's what you do for a living. There shouldn't be any extra added pressure. Just go do what you're meant to do. And I thought that was very, very prescient from him when he spoke yesterday.
The rest of the bench that was available in match day 2, Marshall Ruddy, Tuiloma, Privet, Abada, Williamson, Petkovic, and Smalls. So if that is in fact the case and you want to go uber defensive, who would be getting tagged in the Dean Smith game of duck, duck, goose on the sidelines?
Definitely feel like Privet might come on for a midfielder if they want to go to a back 5, particularly if there's like a midfielder who probably has a yellow card. I don't think he takes Westwood off under any circumstances, but I think Gianni or Bronico might get subbed off for a defensive back, somebody like a Privet. Maybe Tuiloma, just because Tuiloma is somebody who you look at and say has maybe a little bit more experience, but those would, I think, be the guys you look at and say. The other options, I think, are more offensive in nature: Petkovic, Williamson, Abada, and as well as Marshall Ruddy. I think those are only kind of guys you would go to in a break glass case of emergency. You need something quick, that kind of thing.
So with the injury and not having Pep BL, it has kind of forced other folks to do things and be put in positions that they haven't been in a while when it comes to responsibility, not on the pitch, but just responsibility and taking charge. Who in your mind has adapted the fastest and the best without Pep BL in the lineup in the starting 11, do you think?
I mean, I hate going to this answer, but the person who I think has actually benefited and booned the most is Wilfried Zaha, because I think he has taken it upon himself to know the spaces that he needs to be in. I think it's an incredible testament to him that, even though he was maybe somebody who you looked at and said was probably should have dominated this league from Jump Street, had, like very much everybody else, a little bit of an adjustment period of time. I mean, and he didn't have a natural run up to the season. His daughter was literally born on the opening night of the season. Ended up having to go back a couple different times to get visa and whatnot as well too. So he didn't have a traditional preseason. And I think you look at it from the standpoint of where he's come into this club, he's obviously had to get back in the swing of playing a full season. He didn't play a full season at Lyon, and he wasn't playing down the stretch at Galatasaray before the Lyon loan. So he was going on about 6 months from having really played consistent 90-minute per night football. And I think getting back into the swing of that for him, in addition to adjusting to this league, was a tough spot for him. He scored in his first game against Atlanta, which Dean Smith was kind of like, hey, I'm tempering the expectations, saying, hey, he's not going to do this every week, guys. He's going to still have an adjustment period. And I think there was a period in like March and May and even April where it was like, okay, when's the real Wilfried Zaha going to show up? And I think he's shown up. He showed up a lot in the 9-game win streak. I think he had a 7 or 8 game goal contribution streak as well. Had the big goal against Cincinnati that got us the game winner there, and also scored on decision day. I understand people are angry about the second yellow he took against Philadelphia on decision day, but I thought he handled it actually in the aftermath really well. He's a human. He's the most fouled player in this league, a record number, most fouls for anybody in this league in MLS history, most fouled player in Premier League history. So I think it's fair to give him maybe a little bit of grace on that. And I think he also understands how important he is to this team, and he understands that a lot of it's got to go through him. He's got a great relationship with Idon Toklamati. He gave Toklamati the penalty in the game against Miami as well. Obviously, you need other players outside of him to really step up, whereas I think Kieran Vargas, I think, is part of that equation. He had a goal and an assist on decision day against Philadelphia. I think it's a situation where his presence, he can not only create for himself, but he can create for others, and it also allows others to be involved because of how the defense kind of sucks in towards his way.
Yeah, you're reading my notes. I was going to ask about positional gravity, and when you have someone like a Wilfred Zaha who is fouled, I want to say 30% more than the number 2 in that category, which, if I remember correctly, it was Carlos Heel. I mean,
correct. And Heel has been a consistent winner of that category for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and so Wilfred Zaha was the only player fouled in triple digits, and I think that the book was out early, especially when you looked at the matchup against Messi and friends, where he was targeted. I mean, it was literally let's get after Zaha and figure out.
I think he had 8 fouls sustained in that game, I want to say.
And so you go after Zaha and you figure out where the line is with the man in the middle. And if they're not going to call it, then you're going to keep chopping at him and chopping at him and chopping at him. And you end up fouling him as much as you did, getting the engine to run as hot as it did in that instance. And I think that was what the rest of the league kind of looked at going forward, seeing what they could or couldn't do against a Charlotte and a Wilf Zaha as he was trying to acclimate to Major League Soccer.
Very much so. And I think the issue that you run into is that these guys aren't robots. And eventually there is going to be a reaction. And I think the one thing that's been the bigger frustration on Dean Smith is not just the high foul count on Wilf, but as many people pointed out to me on social media, there's a bunch that they probably could have called that weren't. And the ratio of fouls to cards is, I think, his biggest bugaboo. Cards issued to the offending player, not necessarily Wilf.
Right.
And the fact that Wilf actually had a yellow card suspension because most of his reactions to the fouls that he was sustaining were basically being marked off for dissent. I don't think he ever made a foul that I looked at would say was completely cynical, other than maybe like transition foul maybe in a couple of instances. And that's, again, something that I think every player is asked to do at some point. It's not something that's done in malicious intent there. So the fact that that's kind of been the way that his story arc has been this season is a position of frustration for Dean Smith. But again, I think the fact that you've gotten to the point now where you've got everything in front of you, you've got a home field advantage in a decisive game, this is the moment you got a Wilfred Zaha for. And I understand that, would you love to have your other DP out there? Yes. Would you love to have a third DP out there? Yes. But at the same point in time, when I sat in Zoran Krneta's office and talked to him in about, I would say, December of last year, and I asked him, I said, are you guys ready to get somebody here of world renown? And he asked me if I bugged his office. That's the moment. This is the moment that you get a player of that caliber for. He has to be a big factor tonight for Charlotte FC to win 100%, no question about it.
When you look at NYC, and I'll ask you the same question that I ask, because this is a match-to-match question and it may have different answers. What is Charlotte the most confident about going into this one, and what is the most concerning thing about NYC coming into match day 3?
I'll go in reverse. Alonso Martinez being Alonso Martinez is probably the most concerning thing because he created an individual moment out of nothing in game 1 of this series. He was not as dangerous in game 2, which I think Charlotte was very much on their P's and Q's with. I would say another concern, if it was a secondary concern, would be what they can do off the bench. I think they've got more pieces that they can employ off the bench than Charlotte FC has from a depth aspect when it comes to their offensive nature. You have Agustino Haiti, you have Hannes Wolf, you've got Julian Fernandez. Those are all guys who have goals in their locker. And I think that's something where if Pascal Janssen has to employ a shift in any way, he's more confident in doing so than I would say Dean Smith's doing at this point. In terms of where Charlotte is, I think where they're most confident is that they know what they feel they know what they did wrong in game 1, and they know that it's correctable. I think that's kind of where they sit. They feel like game 2 was a proof of concept for them. No, they didn't get their goal, but I think, holding a clean sheet in that building is very, very difficult to do, as you know. So from that aspect, they feel like they seem somewhat fortified. And I think, too, this is something that is really, really new in this particular format. It's the third year in this format, and there's never been a team who's lost at home and then won on the road. I think it's incredibly soul-crushing if you're a New York City fan or a New York City player, knowing you had the opportunity to close this series out at home, and the three previous teams who had done so had been able to do so, and you are the first one to not be able to. And then to have to come here on the road. I'm telling you, John, I looked at Ticketmaster. There are no seats left. There are no seats left in this in the lower bowl.
Good.
There's going to be 34,000 in the bowl tonight. It is going to be loud. It is going to be a live atmosphere. Weather's nice, so you're not going to have anybody drop off because of weather. It's a very, very tough atmosphere to come in and win it. And if they win, fair play to them. I'm not saying the building is going to win you a game, but they are going to be in a hostile environment, which is normally in this league favors the home team.
Another couple of minutes of Will Palaszczuk because he's kind of busy. He's on a match day. Pierre-Luc Lazier is the man in the middle. And while we were discussing what's going on there, I tried to dig up his numbers. And he is, for folks in the middle this season in MLS, he is 26th out of 32 when it comes to fouls called per match.
He lets him play.
At 21.17. And he has 1/3 of a penalty per game, so he's given up 6 pens. Yellows per game at 2.94, which puts him 29th of 32 and the lowest in yellow cards of any center ref that has called more than 2 matches. Literally, he is at the bottom of the rung, the bottom of the table when it comes to dudes issuing yellows. He's given up 53 yellows, but he's at 2.94, lowest of anyone who has called double-digit matches in MLS this season. So hearing that, trends and tendencies would sit there and go, yeah, he's going to let him play tonight.
Yeah, I saw he did the Monday match. It was Seattle, Minnesota, correct?
Yeah.
So that I thought he handled that game incredibly well, and that was a game that also had a lot of physicality to it, and I think there was a high berth for a foul in that game, and I think that's one that could have gotten out of hand pretty quickly, but also I think there has to be some sort of a knowledge of this is the playoffs, and I think there are some referees who feel like they have to insert themselves into the game in order to feel like they're there. He's not one of those referees. Charlotte historically has not done well in his games. I think they have 1 win in 5 tries, so that's something that is if there's maybe a trouble spot for me, I always like to look at that. I get that from Mike Conti. I took that from his little bag of tricks in terms of preparing for a contest and throwing it out there on social media. Sometimes it gets a little bit of a negative reaction depending on who it is, but there's a couple. But I think he's somebody who I think is going to let the game breathe. But I also think he's not going to be afraid if it gets too physical to at least try to wrestle back control of this game. He's done a lot of big matches. There were points late in the game on Saturday where you could start to feel familiarity breeding contempt. And I think that's something that I'm going to be very, very curious about when it comes here to Game 3, because there was a lot of jawing back and forth. There wasn't necessarily a fracas. A lot of that also spilled over into the penalty shootout as well. Kalina was chirping at the supporter section. Zaha was chirping at Matt Freeze. There was some back and forth. And again, this is what happens when you have a team play each other 5 times. And while I know a lot of people have come out and said that they don't like it, I think for a team like Charlotte, it's good, because anything that fosters any type of natural disdain, I think is good for a young club. Like we saw it with Atlanta and Orlando in their first couple of years. We've seen it, I think Red Bulls also had a couple of pretty tough playoff games against Atlanta too. So it's a situation where if you play a team a lot, it's going to force your fans to be like, hey, you know what? I don't like those guys. And I felt the same way. I felt the same way about Orlando this year after we saw him 5 times a year ago. And I guarantee you, as much as I love my guy Glenn Crooks, when I see him next year, I'm going to be like, I don't like seeing you guys.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing you.
No, not happening. If you would, please, sir, cut the promo for folks so that how they can listen to you and your dulcet tones for a match day 3.
So we have the radio musical chairs again. We are on our adult alternative station this week, Mix 107.9 because of conflicts on our other stations, but 107.9 FM here in Charlotte, Mix 107.9 on the online. They also have their own app. I don't know if XM's picking us up or if they're picking Glenn's call up. I'm not sure. But if you do want to listen to us while you watch on Apple, use the languages tab, get our voice underneath the pretty pictures. It's my favorite feature. It should be in every sport. I don't know why it isn't, but, that's for other people to figure out.
It's an extra audio cable into the board, routed directly into the truck. That's all it is. You sit there and go bang and out the other side and into the truck, and there it happens. As always,
beautiful.
Just what I'm saying. As always, my friend, great to see you. Do not be a stranger. We're going to catch up again next week, and we'll find out what else is on your mind as we go and as 8 turns into 4 in each conference. Good to see you, my friend. Be safe. Have a great call.
Thank you, John. Always appreciate it.
All right, Will Palaszczuk, everybody. And that is your whip-around preview of everything that is going on in Major League Soccer this weekend. We'll go over the matchups and juice boxes and look at them and what sticks in your mind and all of those things. So once again, Dell might actually root for Charlotte since they're playing NYC. And I think that's the thing. So looking at each of these matchups as we have here this week, you look at Charlotte and NYC, and NYC to me is a team that is routed for their pitch, the 68 by 106, as Peter Vermes measured it off and said that's what it is. So that is, I think they're wired for that stadium. They take advantage of that stadium, and then it's trying to adjust to playing on wider pitches and not playing pinball. How long will it take them to get readjusted to playing on a regulation pitch on that surface, going from grass to turf? And how long will it take them to get reacclimated? And then the speed that you have for NYC, how will that go up against the back line of Charlotte for me? Once again, you look at the rundown of the starting 11s. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so last time out, once again, Toffolo, Ream, Malanda, and Byrne. My guess is that you're going to be in the attack for NYC. You are going to be going down that right-hand side with Fernandez, Maxi Morales, Martinez. You're going to be working down that right-hand side of your attack up against the left-hand side of defense and having Bronico shade to the left, Westwood on the left-hand side of the defense, Toffolo and Ream, and Christian Kalina, who played out of his mind. Otherwise, it was a day that ended in Y. So 1 penalty shootout save, 5 saves in the day, goals prevented a .54. Saves from inside the box, he had 4 there as well. 11 recoveries on the day for Christian Kalina, 48 touches on the afternoon, 27 to 37 passing at 73%, and he was 24 of 26 in his own half. So then, obviously, you're looking at the long balls where he was 13 of 23 at 57%, 3 of 11 passes in the opposition half. So basically, if he puts the ball down, he's outside the 18, sends it long, he was 3 of 11. So that was what you got from Christian Kalina last time out, obviously, winning and getting an 8.7 from our friends at SofaScore. But I'm anticipating on that surface, you're going to chase after Ream, you're going to chase after Westwood, you're going to work your way, and Zaha, you're going to go down the right-hand side in the attack. I want to see what the numbers are when it comes to the attacking thirds. I want to see what it looks like. But for me, I'm shading to the right, and I'm trying to work things that way. Then that should free stuff up on the left-hand side for Perea, Justin Hack, etc. And then that should be your opportunities there for Charlotte. So that's what I'm staring at in this. And that was why I wanted to ask Will about folks like Toklamati and Vargas, who might have to, and they will be the ones that you're staring at when it comes to the positional gravity that we talk about. So it's going to be, for me, Toklamati and Vargas that are going to be the focus when Zaha gets chopped at and chopped down. And that was why I wanted to bring up the numbers for Pierre-Luc Lazier and find out how he was in calling fouls. So tonight, when you watch, it is going to be, if Lazier holds to form and holds to his personality and such, last in the league in yellows per match. And I mean, literally, you're looking at 2.94 yellows per match for Pierre-Luc Lazier. So I would anticipate, once again, you're going to see NYC try and chop down Zaha. They're going to chop down Toklamati. They're going to find out where that line is, because if Lazier isn't going to call fouls, then he obviously ain't giving yellows. So once again, last in the league, 29th of 32 in yellows, but he is last in those individuals who were center refs who were more than 9 matches. Double-digit matches. You had Natalie Simon, Elton Garcia, Ricardo Fiera, and Mathieu Soiree. They called a handful of matches. They called 7 matches among the 4 of them. That is 28, 30, 31, and 32 in the rankings. Pierre-Luc Lazier, 29th at yellows per match at 2.94. And once again, toward the bottom of the pile in fouls per game, 26th out of 32, averaging 21.17, just ahead of Alan Chapman. Tori Penso is also there. She calls under 20. And then you have Jair Marufo, Mathieu Soiree. Timothy Ford, by the way, is 31st out of 32 at 13 matches and 18.85. But Pierre-Luc Lazier, 26th in fouls called on average per match for those over a certain, over single-digit man-in-the-middle opportunities. And then dead last in consistent referees when it comes to yellows per match. Let's get into who else is calling what this weekend. Pierre-Luc Lazier, man in the middle. Corey Parker, Jeremy Kiso, your ARs. Alexis De Silva, your 4th. Daniel Radford and Mike Kampmeinert upstairs. On Saturday, Victor Rivas, the man in the middle for Minnesota and Seattle. Michael Barweg and Walt Heatherly, your ARs. Marcus de Oliveira is your 4th. David Barry, Craig Lowry upstairs. Chris Penso is in the middle for Hell is Real, match day 3. Chris Elliott, Jeremy Hansen, Alan Chapman is your 4th. Jeff Gamble and Tom Supple are upstairs. Rosendo Mendoza is in the middle for Messi and Friends and Nashville. Kyle Atkins, Catherine Nesbitt, Ricardo Montero, Araya is your 4th. Timothy Ford and TJ Zablocki are upstairs. San Diego and Portland gets Joe Dickerson. Beat 2, 3, 4. Logan Brown, Ryan Graves, your ARs. Malik Badawi is your 4th. Fotis Bazakos and TJ Zablocki are upstairs. So TJ Zablocki gets the nightcap on Saturday and then Sunday night soccer on MLS. So let's look at Victor Rivas just to give you an idea of fouls per game called. And Victor Rivas is 6th on average at 25.4. He is also toward the top of the ladder. He is 2nd in yellows per match at 5.05 behind Guido Gonzalez Jr. He also has given 111 yellows this season. So Victor Rivas, 2nd in yellows per game, and he is 6th in fouls per game, 25.4 and 5.05. So for Victor Rivas and the match that he is calling, that 4 o'clocker with Minnesota and Seattle, if personality holds, anticipate a lot of whistles and a decent amount of yellows. Chris Penso for Hell is Real. Fouls per game, he is 7th, just behind Rivas at 25.22, and he is just behind Rivas in yellows per match at 5. So Chris Penso is 3rd in fouls per game and yellows per game at 5, and he is 7th in fouls per match this season at 25.22. And like I said, this is tendency. We'll see if it applies to the matches this weekend. Rosendo Mendoza gets a Messi and Friends in Nashville. And Rosendo Mendoza in fouls per match is in the middle of the pack, 23 3/4. And he has called 89. He's given 89 yellow cards this season, averaging 4.45. Let's put him 11th. So top 3rd. So top 3rd in yellows per match at 4.5, and middle of the pack in fouls per match at 23.75. Mendoza, by the way, has given the most red cards in matches this season in Major League Soccer. He has given away 8. Rubio Vasquez has 7. Guido Gonzalez Jr., Sergi Boyko have given 6. Nima Sagafi and Joe Dickerson have each given 5. So Mendoza, if you are looking for something else to pay attention to for Rosendo Mendoza, the most red cards issued this season by center F in Major League Soccer, and he has Messi and friends in Nashville on Saturday night. Joe Dickerson, man in the middle at the Murph Dragon once again for San Diego and Portland. And so Dickerson second in the league in fouls called per match at 27. And yellows per match, he averages 4.7, so that puts him 7th on the grid. So Dickerson, a lot of fouls called, decent amount of yellows for an elimination game, a mutual elimination game with San Diego and Portland on Sunday. So that's your breakdown of the men in the middle, the folks in the middle that have been there this season for Major League Soccer and those 5 matchups. So Charlotte and NYC, we mentioned kind of what to keep an eye out for, and I'm glad that we got the chance to catch up with Will Palaszczuk to get his thoughts going into a mutual elimination game for match day 3. You also have, Derek, just give him a red. Give Messi a red just because. Just because. Hey, boom. Abby wants to know how many were double yellows versus direct red. That is a good question. That is definitely a good question. Let's see if we can come up with referee statistics here. Let's see if we can find see, that is something. Okay, so I need like a detailed breakdown of, let's see. So Rosendo Mendoza as an idea. So Rosendo Mendoza, see, it's just who scored. The only problem with who scored is they give you the yellows and the reds. Let me see if I can do some digging. So MLS ref stats. And I guess, well, let's workshop this. It's been a while since we've workshopped something. So MLS ref stats. So MLS ref stats. Let's see. So on the butterfly, let's see. Not there on that one on the butterfly app. So that's on that. Okay, Transfermarkt. Let's see if we can come up, because Transfermarkt's usually pretty good about these things. So let's see if we can come up with, okay, good. So Transfermarkt gives us the answer. Transfermarkt gives us the answer for all of these. So let's go to that column of yellow conversion to red. Rosendo Mendoza, 4 of those were second yellows. Then he had 2 straight red cards. So that is Rosendo Mendoza. We go down. Lozier had two second yellows and a straight red. Let's see who else. Chris Penso, one double yellow and 2 straight reds. And Ricardo Montero has a straight red. Let's see. Rubiel Vasquez has 2 straight reds. As I sit here and I'm trying to get the listings down, everybody else has straight reds. So Joe Dickerson, 2 straight reds. And everybody else that has given a red this year has been straight reds. So Joe Dickerson, 2 straight reds. So we like to thank our friends at Transfermarkt for this, by the way. So Transfermarkt has our answers. So looking at, so Rosendo Mendoza had 4 second yellows and 2 straight reds. And so that should answer the question. So Rosendo Mendoza, 4 second yellows, 2 straight reds. Lozier, 2 second yellows, 1 straight red. Victor Rivas, 2 second yellows, 5 straight reds. Timothy Ford, 2 second yellows, 3 reds. Alan Chapman, Chris Penso, 1 second yellow, 2 reds. And Ricardo Montero is a 4th. And Marcus de Oliveira did not give any of those. And Rubiel Vasquez, what is that? What is that category? Oh, penalty kicks. Penalty kicks. Let's get into that. So PKs on the year, penalty kicks that were given. Sergi Boyko is the top at 11. And then you have Alan Chapman, Rubiel Vasquez with 10 PKs. You have Timothy Ford with 8 PKs. Victor Rivas with 7, Lozier with 6, Mendoza with 6, de Oliveira with 5, Guido Gonzalez Jr. with 5, Ricardo Montero with 4, Dickerson with 3 PKs allowed or allotted this year. And then, as our friends at Transfermarkt are thinking, PKs this year, that's it. So those are the PKs that were given this year, courtesy of our friends at Transfermarkt. So a handful of them in the higher numbers were second yellows leading to reds and some straight reds, but a majority of them were second yellows leading to reds, if that makes any sense. So that was a breakdown, combining our friends from Who Scored and our friends at Transfermarkt. So Transfermarkt had the second yellows to reds, so bookmark that going forward. Okay, so the matchups themselves, we talked about Charlotte and NYC at the bank, Minnesota and Seattle. It's I think that Seattle's experience, and I also think that what we saw from Seattle in match day 2, I think is going to carry over into match day 3. We caught up with our friend Nico Moreno yesterday. If you missed that audio is up on the network as well. He gave you the full rundown about what he's anticipating in that matchup against Minnesota. I do think as the favorite on the plus side that I would go there. I don't think it's going to be 4 on the board for either team. I don't think it's going to be 3-0 and then somebody comes back to make it 3-2. I think it's going to be a lot tighter to the vest. And so I think that there aren't going to be a whole lot of goals scored, especially if Eric Ramsey has his way and basically has Seattle do all the work. So that's what I'm looking at in that one. Cincinnati and Columbus. Once again, the interview we had with Chris Doran yesterday and caught up with him, got his breakdown of what he thinks in the Columbus-Cincinnati matchup. And looking at that one, I think that I'm leaning Columbus because of what we saw. And Chris made this point, and also in Yuya Kubo not being available because of the red card, and it was a straight red card dog. So I don't think not having Yuya Kubo is going to force Pat Noonan's hand in a couple of different ways. You saw that at the back it was issues for Cincinnati, Echenike and Elvis Powell specifically on the right-hand side. I think that if that is the lineup that Pat Noonan trots out, I think that once again you're going to see Columbus on the attack on the left-hand side taking advantage of Echenike and Elvis Powell. And it might end up being a long day for FC Cincinnati in that regard. It might turn into that shootout that we're looking for somewhere in there. But I think that Cincinnati is going to have to defend on their right-hand side. Columbus is going to work a lot down the left. I would think Max Arfsten's going to have another busy day offensively. So I think that that's what you're staring at when it comes to Max Arfsten and his day. So Charlotte and New York down the right-hand side against the left side of the defense for Charlotte. Minnesota, Seattle, I think it's going to be that's going to be very, very physical. I think it's going to be a very, very physical day, and it's going to be Seattle has to be clinical with their chances. They can't turn the ball over deep in their own territory. They can't give Minnesota the opportunity to get the quick counter and putting a shot on net. I think that we saw that as the game went on, and I know that once again you're going from turf to grass. It's going to be an interesting. I think it's like I said, it's going to be a lot tighter to the vest than it was in Seattle. But if Seattle gets out to that hot start, it's over on the road, and I think that building just deflates, and there's nothing there to help Minnesota out. If Seattle jumps out early, that building deflates, and then Minnesota is going to have to do all that work and do something that they're not used to doing, and that's have possession of the ball or work that much harder to try and create turnovers deep in Seattle's end. You may just see Seattle just send it long, and it's like, all right, your time to do all the work if they get that lead early. Then you've got Cincinnati and Columbus. We talked about that. I think Columbus, once again, on the left-hand side, going up against the right-hand side of the back line for Cincinnati. I think that's going to be your matchup. For Messi and friends in Nashville, I think that it is going to be attacking the back line. I know it seems like we keep saying this over and over and over again, but if you've got speed and you're there at the erector set and you're working your way around the edges and you're going over the back line of Messi and friends, forcing them to chase, retreat, and have to build, I think that your speed, if you're Nashville, can get there, get past that defense, and put shots on target, whether it's going to be Ustari or Roca Rios Novo. And to Lucas's point, we had Lucas Panzica on in hour number 1. It's all about, cutting off the supply lines. We've seen it with Atlanta United, where you had young players that didn't really care. It's like, who's got the ball? Don't care. I'm focusing on the ground. I'm not focusing on the crest. You cut off those supply lines, make sure that he meaning Messi, cannot create 2-3 dudes, collapse on it, and it might be a day for the fouls. It might definitely be a day for the fouls in that one when you're staring at Messi and friends and Nashville. Let me look at the lineup. Let me look at the subs for Nashville when we had Lucas on in hour number 1. Then you look at that particular match. Lineup once again. He mentioned Matthew Corcoran. We've seen him at Huntsville City Football Club, and now he's getting reps at Nashville. So here was the starting lineup. It was Palacios, who got away with an elbow. Walker Zimmerman and Bauer at the back. Bauer had a 7.8 on the day. Can he replicate that performance over 90 minutes? 4 tackles, 1, 2 picks, 4 clearances, a recovery, was 6 of 10 on his ground duels. That was defensively. 70 touches for Josh Bauer on the night. 1 successful dribble. Had 1 key pass on the night, 78% passing at 32 of 41, 4 of 9 in the opposing half, 28 of 32 in his own half, and then obviously had an XG and an XGOT of 0.74, had the 1 goal, 2 total shots, and 1 shot on target. He had 1 shot blocked. But backline, Willis, back 3, or as it was, SofaScore has it as a 3-4-3. Lucas has it as a 4-2-2-2. We're going with Lucas. But we'll go through the names. Backline, Bauer, Zimmerman, Corcoran, Palacios. Well, Bauer, Zimmerman, Palacios, your back 3 in quotation marks. Corcoran, Tagset, Yazbek, Nahar, Mukhtar, Surridge, and Muil. And so I'm seriously thinking that it's Mukhtar and Surridge up top, or Surridge and Muil. Mukhtar is in that second level of 2, and he's probably paired with Corcoran to help out there. Then you've got, Corcoran drifts back a little bit, or Nahar drifts back, and you sit there and it alternates with Tagset and Yazbek. So the bench for BJ Callahan brought in Schaffelberg, brought in Acosta, brought in Ahmed Kassem, brought in Teal Bunbury. He also had at his disposal Tate Schmidt, Jack Mahar, Tyler Borden, Gaston Brugman. Doubtful into match day 2 were Washington and Kassem. Out were Meyer, Perez, and Julian Gaines. So, if you want to turn it into a bit of a foul fest and make sure that you slow Messi and friends down, you're going to be using your bench. But Matthew Corcoran, once again, at 19, showing no fear against Messi and friends. We've seen that before. Young players out there don't care. They got a job to do, and we're going to do it, and we'll talk about it afterwards. San Diego and Portland. Can San Diego shake that notion of not doing well at home? That's what they got to shake here. Can they shake it with Portland? I think they can. And it will be I will be intrigued. Can they shake the bad mojo of the Murph Dragon, where they've been a lot more average by comparison compared to anything else? Instead of saying bad, because if you're number one in the standings in the West, it's not that you were bad, it's that you were worse at home than you were on the road. 7-5-5 at the Murph Dragon this year in the regular season, 12-4-1 away from home. All that pressure of that first-year team trying to make sure that you can make that deep run, I understand it. 7-5-5 at home in the regular season. So chasing after all that firepower, it's probably just shaking off the idea of being at home and seeing what Anders Dreyer and Chucky Lozano can do with Tverskov and everyone else. So that's what I'm staring at. So looking at the matches, I'm going to say that I have no idea about NYC and Charlotte, because you've got 2 great keepers and it could go for a while. We'll be watching that one tonight at 7:12. I've got Seattle, I've got Columbus, and I have no idea about Miami and Messi and friends in Nashville, and I got San Diego. So 3 of the ones I'm fairly confident on. 2 of the others I'm not. Morning, David. Morning, Thomas Guin. Morning, Fourcard, as we go. And let's see. So morning, Derek. And I'm trying to see if there's anyone else that is in here this morning. And I think you're right. I think Matt Corcoran did go to Rhode Island for a small spell this year. So that is what we're staring at with that. We've gone over all the odds for everything overseas. And once again, the PSA that I have for this weekend, if you have the time, you can find a way, Fanatis, FNTZ.co/soccer down here. Catch Boca and River on Sunday. Let me go through all the promo items also really quickly. Once again, go to soccerdownhere.net, go into the shop. You can get all of our new gear with the new logo. You can help out the Marshall Islands and their federation. Keep the lights on right there. There's the new scarf with the new base, with the new SDH base that's attached to it. So you can go and get that. Once again, you want to reach out to me. We can figure it out. You want to reach out. We can USA jersey sale today. But if it is a jersey sale today, Del, if they can get the U17 bomb pop, that's going to be great. Mexico and Ivory Coast are goalless with 30 to go right now in the U17s. We'll go over the scores in a bit. So you can get Marshall Islands. You see that I'm wearing the sweatshirt that I picked up from them. You can get the Marshall Islands scarf either from the Fed or from me. We got some. I know I'm going to have to make another order soon. I've got to go to the post office today and send out 9 domestic and then figure out how many I have to send international. So you can go there and get that. Go to Olive and York and you can get our jersey, the SDH floppy collar, the Navy jersey. You can figure out how you want to personalize it, either light blue or white, letters and numerals. Proceeds go to our Soccer for Good campaign here, and you can make a nice last dash for all of your records and picking up jerseys toward the end of the calendar year. Hey, we got holidays coming. And thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente, we could not do any of this without them at all. And we can't thank them enough for anything and everything that's going on all season here at SDH. We have Kaiser Permanente across the front. You can personalize it on the back, catch up with Alex and Abby and figure out which version that you want. I think Abby has them both. You can also be a Fanatico, and that's $10 a year. And you can go through our Chant app, and you can get a lot of really cool discounts at a lot of really cool places. A lot of them are breweries where you get X number of dollars off. You go to O'Sullivan's in Decatur, you get a percentage off of food and things like that. Tires Plus in Alpharetta has great discounts as well. You want to go to Chateau Arenal in Costa Rica, you get a code if you want to go down there and stay. So if you want to watch CONCACAF Champions League, if you just want to go watch a Herediano, Alajuelense, or Saprissa, you can go stay at Chateau Arenal. I think it's like 2 hours outside of San Jose, but you get a discount code for a resort in Costa Rica. And you can go through the Chant app, group.chant.fan/soccer-down-here/join. Let me type that out. Group.chant.fan/soccer-down-here/join. I think I got it. Did I get it? Yes, I did. So $10 a year. $10 a year, you can go group.chant.fan/soccer-down-here/join, and you can be a Fanatico. What do you do for $10 a year? You can help out our Soccer for Good campaign right there, and you can be a part of our Fanaticos at SDH as we try and grow that in the end of 25 and into 26 as the world comes, and it's also a part of our Soccer for Good campaign there. We mentioned Fanatis, FNTZ.co/soccer-down-here. You get all of the channels that are attached to Fanatis. Right now, as I was watching, it was Teisei's morning show, and they're getting ready for Boca and River. No real surprise. They have a Premier Paddle circuit going on out of Kuwait. The quarterfinals are going on there. Liga 1 Max, BN en Español. You get all the BNs and all the matches that are there. Teisei, Gold TV in English and Spanish. TVV, you can watch our buddy Nino Torres on Gold TV in English, and you can catch his games that are there. You get Argentina, Uruguay, Tigo Sports, Canal 4. It's all there on Fanatis, FNTZ.co/soccer-down-here. And you get to watch a lot of really cool stuff and add to your degenerative leagues that only you would know about that can help you out for picks of the week when it comes to soccer over there every Monday night from the Brew House at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And so go to soccerdownhere.net, buy the gear, help the Marshall Islands out, buy the scarf. Buy the scarf. Wait, there it is. Buy the scarf, and be a Fanatico for $10 a year, and you can help out our Soccer for Good campaign in that way as well, and really help us out with our continued campaigns there. Okay, so this weekend, starting tonight, it's 1-3-1 MLS game day threes, match day threes. Thanks to Calen Carr for dropping by. Thanks to Will Palaszczuk for dropping by for the preview of Charlotte and NYC, and thanks to Lucas Panzica for the preview of Nashville and Messi and friends, because they're busy up there in Nashville. They got like NFL where they're 1-8, and they got college with Vandy, and they've got the Preds that are kicking back in, and they've got what's going on with Nashville SC. So you've got that this weekend in Major League Soccer. Last weekend of the Premier League before the new international break in November. Coming out in about 20 minutes is the new episode of Soccer for US POD, where Bart and the crew look at No More Camp Cupcake and what they think about that, plus the November window. That's going to be on the network at 11:30. Set your notifications for everything SDH, and you'll know when stuff is released on audio across the board there. We're going to be keeping an eye on stuff, obviously, when Atlanta United makes their thoughts known about when Tata is having his reintroductory press conference. We will let you know all about that, and we'll have that covered from one end to the other. And we have some programming coming out this weekend where it is we catch up with Adele. I will let you know. I will catch up with you in Carrollton for a cross-country meet. So Carrollton itself has a lot of hotels, and you're right there off of an exit, and then you've got to travel like 10 minutes to go in town. Carrollton has a lot of hotels themselves, but you can stay at the exit, and there are some hotels there too. So I'll DM you offline about that. Villa Rica is a couple of exits down. I would stay at the exit or stay in Carrollton if you can. So there's one main exit. Del, I'll let you know, and obviously let everybody else let Del know about hotels in Carrollton. Bremen's a little too far. Villa Rica's too far. You can stay in Carrollton. You can be a decent 10, 15 minutes away from the high school and the Musselwhite track, and you'll be in good shape. But we'll DM you about that as well. Okay, so here we go. This weekend, we get to catch up on a really cool story for a Soccer Down Here 1v1, and it's the new franchise in El Paso in the NPSL. The team president is 20 years old. That'll be up on Saturday. You can listen to that. Coming up this weekend on the Red Clay, we get you ready for the postseason. We have conference tournaments happening. Catch up with our friends at Georgia Gwinnett. That'll be a part of the Roots and all the conferences that we look at. Jason is going to be very, very busy this weekend. It's going to be SoCon, Sunbelt SoCon for Jason this weekend. So keep an eye out for Jason on the Plus. He's going to be very, very busy, and he's going to get some accompaniment from the Hoff this weekend too, and I think from Maddie as well. So postseason conference tournaments, Jason's got them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So he's very, very busy. And so Roots this week is going to be a trip to Boise, Idaho. We catch up with the new head coach at AC Boise, Nate Miller, and find out what it's like for him to be a part of something new in USL League One. And we also catch up with Kate Ward, who is from Atlanta, went to St. Pius, and she is on her last ride. It is the last dance for Kate and two of her teammates and the coaching staff for the U.S. Deaf Women's National Team. They are heading today, or they were supposed to yesterday, heading to Japan for the Deaf Olympics from the 12th to the 25th. We caught up with Kate before she left town and before she left the country, as she is getting ready as the U.S. Deaf Women's National Team is chasing after their 5th medal in the Deaf Olympics. So Roots this week is Kate Ward and Nate Miller from AC Boise, and Red Clay focuses on all the conference activity that we have going on and getting you ready for postseason in national tournaments, and we'll let you know what's going on there as well. So once again, thanks to all of them for helping us out. And yes, El Paso is an NPSL franchise run by a 20-year-old student. We get all the details coming up on Saturday. It's a really cool story. Once again, thanks to all of you guys for another great week here on SDH AM. Set your notifications on the Odyssey app and at 92.9 The Game. It is the best of SDH AM, and we had a hell of a week. So we got to figure out what interviews we're going to do to put in for that. It's available on the Odyssey platform, the best of SDH AM, a lot of the interviews that we've had during the week. Some of the best ones, the 3 segments that we pick, are just a small part of what we do every single week, but it's also now on the Odyssey app. That comes out on Saturday mornings, and so we'll figure out who we're going to pick this week. So let's see what the rundown was like this week. It was Will Palaszczuk, Calen Carr. It was Lucas Panzica. It was Nino and Nico on the Power Hour Thursday. Chris Doran from Columbus on Thursday. Kaylor Hodges talking everything USL Championship, and it was a busy week for them. Dylan Butler, Tyler Pilgrim after his computer updated, Jason Stevens and the economics of soccer and MCOs. It was you had the Travella Group come by, and Ben Boycott, the CEO, finding out about what it's like to build an MCO out of the state of Alabama. We had Let's see. We had, who else did we have? We had Max Anderson, play-by-play voice of Chicago. Casey White talking about everything in the NWSL from decision day in the colleges. And then we also had Gabe Schrei talking about Next Pro in League One. Bart Keeler was discussing everything going on with cards and calls on a busy weekend, and Abe Gordon started us off. And we'll do it again next Monday. It's a hell of a week for SDH AM. I can't thank all of you enough for being a part of it. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back at it again before you know it, Monday morning, 9:05. And since it is the end of yet another week, enjoy it, folks. It's the whistle. See you Monday. We'll see you before then out in the world as MLS goes from 8 to 4. We'll have all the details on Monday.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are ours. Be gone.